Yes. Hey everyone, so glad to be here again. This is one of my favorite gatherings, you know it, because being surrounded by incredible thinkers, doers, builders, investors, people that come together to ask the hard questions and put our minds together to think of better answers that we had yesterday is absolutely paramount. And there's so much that we're learning. So every time we hear, we try to share back as much as we could learn since the last time we spoke. You know, when building companies this time around, I was when starting with A.Team, you know, I realized that there's not in such a volatile world, and when building a startup, there's not much that you can control. But if there's one thing that you can control, is trying your absolute best to work with the best people on the planet. And sometimes it's a question of mindset. I found that there's no one that you cannot get to and at least suggest that to do something together. And I want to tell you that story. But before I get there, because to me that is the story of the CXO network. Before I go there, I want to tell you kind of the background of this and how this whole thing started. So as you know, at A.Team, we are building this very curated network and platform for the world's best product builders across discipline and specialty. And of course, when we got started earlier, even before COVID, we found that a growing amount of very highly skilled professionals, people at the top of their skill set, have been eager to escape rigid structures of typical employment, to be able to team up with people they want to work with, to work on problems that they actually care about. Not just the comfortable things to do at the tech giants, which were really, really nice for a while, but then more and more people were like, you know what? I have these incredible skills. My time is actually limited. And through the pandemic, more people realize that time is limited. What about I try to apply these capabilities, those gifts that have been given, to the things that actually matter to me, with people that I want to work with? So we've done that. We found that it was not just feeling that. It was so many people out there. And we're just, just getting applications pretty much since the beginning of the company. Every week, so many applications of people that we could not believe from top companies that were like, oh, I would like to be chosen to be part of the A-Team network because like I believe in this and I've been thinking of a change. People who call themselves freelancers, people who never thought of calling themselves freelancers, people who wouldn't know how to define themselves, but doesn't matter. At the end of the day, it's about the opportunity to work on really great stuff. And that has happened with so many companies, from startups to Fortune 10 companies. But there's something that quite surprised us early in that journey, is that we saw through the application and people coming into the network, sometimes really senior people, heads of product, founders that have sold their companies and were suddenly part of the network. Then we saw executives joining the network. We're like, that's strange. I didn't even hear about it. Like we didn't think. And you know that thing when sometimes you dream of something and then it's kind of crazy when it actually happens? Well, that happened to me when I sent a LinkedIn message, a cold LinkedIn message, to this incredible leader, Jen Snow. I don't know if she's listening, actually. But Jen Snow was, at the time, the CTO of the US Air Force Innovation Arm. Can never exactly pronounce the name of that unit, but that's basically the gist of it. And I was like, hey, we're doing this A-Team thing. Here's a little bit about it. Would love to get your thoughts on it. And she answered. We spoke. I was like, okay, that's crazy. And she really got it. In some ways, she got it better than we did, or at least a different perspective of it. And about a year later, Jen retired from the military after an incredible career. And she said, hey, I'd like to join A-Team, the network. Like, amazing. And as we're seeing more and more of these incredible executives and leaders that have essentially got to the highest level of what the 9-to-5 can give you at the best corporates in America, they then realize that the next step for them, the next stage, the next level of the game may not be that linear, taking another C-level job at a company, but rather to be able to, like all the builders that are part of now 9,000 people in the A-Team network, to team up with another and build phenomenal things. And long story short, am I clicking on something? Okay. There's some really nice visuals. I think it's worth it. Okay. Yeah, I like that. And then we started to do the thing that we do at A-Team with anything we do, which is building community, right? Bring people together, just as we're doing right now, all of us together. And we started building that CXO network. You're going to recognize some of the faces. Oh, here's Jen. And today we're talking about 70 people, part of the CXO network, which we are growing very carefully, very slowly on a cohort basis and so on, spanning across so many different companies. And sometimes, Joe mentioned a little bit of this, but I just want you to realize, like, sometimes we find ourselves in these rooms with A.Team CXOs, and I'm like, wow, this is, like, I can't believe that I get to speak with people like that. And especially at a moment when they are teaming up with one another and the broader network to reinvent the game. So what does the reinventing the game looks like? Well, it's about this ability to team up with the industry experts, the people that have led transformation, understand what change look like and how to affect it, with the people that can actually build it. And these three ingredients, when they come together, that's when you get true value creation. We've talked together among each other and among the hundreds of companies that we worked with, particularly in the field of AI, that there's so many companies that made the mistake of just doing technology for the sake of technology. And we know this because we've made the mistakes at every wave of new technologies. And it turns out that doesn't work. Doing just a bunch of Gen AI stuff and seeing what sticks does not work. What it requires is thinking in terms of product, in terms of outcomes, coming from the strategy of what are the biggest problems to the execution. And that's where the three ingredients matter so much. And as we see engagement across so many different companies right now with these ingredients. And there's one other thing that we found, which is something I wanted to touch on today for the first time in this group, which is that the step one, something that trumps any number of slides, that's actually building something, experimenting, putting something together. And that's why what we'd like to soft launch today, not ready for sharing outside, is the golden prototype. The golden prototype is our attempt to just put it together in a very simple way. As we found that bringing this type of team with the leaders on the strategic side, with the execution and the expertise on the industry, and the ability to actually build, made it so that in just a few days, you could take your hardest problem at the heart of companies' priorities that have nothing to do with AI or technology and show how you can make a very meaningful dent in that problem. And not show it by way of presenting a 3-year strategy and horizons, but in a way that we found gets us, something you can play on your phone or on your computer, becomes extremely tangible and makes its way to boardrooms and very, very quickly, even when you don't plan for this to happen. We're also realizing that there are hundreds of companies out there that with maybe $4 or $5 million, a little bit of transformation work done right, could not just transform themselves, but actually have unprecedented impact and transformation for their industries in a matter of months. And therefore, what we're looking for is get you started on this very problem. So we're putting this here now. Please don't share this publicly just yet, because this program of the Golden Prototype is limited to five to start with, 5 companies, and we're going to be vetting the actual use case, that it's really something that matters. But as we've been doing this with many companies and find it to be so successful and so easy, that you get started, you start diagnosing the situation, discovery on the problem, then you go into scoping it, to building it. 30 hours later, you've got a visual, tangible palpable representation of what the future looks like becomes much less scary, much more practical. You can go into plans on how to actually make it happen. That's what we're looking to do. So if there's interest on something like this, again, within whoever is here in the room and online, just shoot an email to ai@A.Team, and we'd love to talk about it with you. Thank you so much for being here. I'm excited for all the learnings and conversation we're going to have tonight.
All right. Thank you, Raph.